It should also be noted before we go any further that it's not just the police who had become hostile towards me at this point. Welcome back to Corrupt Clearfield. All of you remember you can check out the Dropbox file at corruptclearfield.com by clicking the link at the top of the page and check out all these documents for yourself. Definitely want you to do that. It provides so much more substantiation to this entire story when you see the legal documents that were entered by the district attorney, the police, and the court system. It just adds an entirely new layer of insanity to this entire case. So, not just the police who had become hostile. I attempted to take my findings to the district attorney's office, which is your only real legal option at that point. Who do you go to asking them to investigate themselves? Well, unfortunately, legally at this point in the investigation, you have to go to the district attorney and ask them to investigate yourself. As insane as that might seem, it is the next legal step that must be taken. So I went, and predictably, everyone I spoke with said they would not speak to me without their attorney present. Now, I attempted to notify them that they were in fact all attorneys, but that did not seem to deter them. They continued to deny my request for conversation, which, when you consider that she used to work with Bill Shaw, Paul Cherry, Warren Mikesell, and the whole crew, doesn't really surprise you at all that they weren't willing to talk with me. I'd still needed a few more documents that nobody was being helpful in providing, and because I was having a real issue getting in touch with anyone while any of these folks were in their offices, I decided that the best opportunity I had to actually get all of these documents without having any sort of hassle or somebody saying I wasn't allowed to have those was to wait until the day of John's sentencing, when I presumed everybody would actually be present in the courtroom, leaving the courthouse completely unattended. So I waited until John's sentencing for the summary violation. Remember, Judge Cherry dismissed the jury, and then he ruled John guilty of the summary violation of harassment after suppressing all of John's alibis, so he couldn't actually prove his innocence, which was able to be proven without a shadow of a doubt. So on this day, when Judge Cherry has the sentencing, I decide to stroll over to the courthouse and try to get the documents that I need. I also wanted to talk to Chip Bell, the court administrator, the one Clearfield worker who had actually been kind and helpful to me up until that point. So I go to Chip's office, and a figure steps in front of me, someone I hadn't actually dealt with yet. They say, "May I help you?" I say, "Yes, I would love to talk to Chip Bell." They say, "Okay, you sit down here. Let me go see if I can find him." I thought this was a little strange at first because none of my previous interactions with Chip had started like this, but I was like, oh, okay. So I sat down and waited. This person came back and said, "Well, Chip Bell is not able to see you." What? He's not able to see me? Why? Because he's not allowed to see you. Well, is he not allowed? Am I not able? Does he not want to? Or am I not allowed to see him? You're not allowed to. Who said so? I did. And you are? At this point, I'm assuming he became a little irritated. His voice certainly stiffened towards me. He said, "I'm President Judge Ammerman, the second judge. I had only dealt with Judge Cherry up until that point." So we had a little bit of an exchange that ended with him telling me I was no longer allowed at the courthouse. He said, "Either leave, go sit in the sentencing hearing and then leave, or you'll be arrested." I said, "On what grounds?" He said, "Because I said so." I think I've read that statute somewhere in the Pennsylvania Criminal Code. But that's okay, because after looking through all of the facts of the case, reviewing everything multiple times, I found the dagger, at least as far as the government of Clearfield's involvement is concerned. Because you see, the forged evidence, Tara liking her own Facebook post after changing her name to John's name, and after changing her picture to John's picture, that still just implicates her. There's no 100% evidence that anything was suppressed, that any sort of legal acrobatics were done by the district attorney's office and the police and the judge, except for this. Now, if you remember, back in 2015, when Tara first summoned Officer Curry and reported that John had drove around in circles in the Jubilee Church parking lot, and also that 13 days prior on August 3rd, he had been driving down the alleyway behind her house, and she didn't see his face, she just allegedly heard his voice. When she reported these things to Officer Curry repeatedly told her, "There's nothing here, I'm not charging him." But upon Tara's insistence, she agreed to actually talk with the district attorney for Clearfield to see if charges were warranted. Now, there's nothing legally saying that she got back with Tara, at least nothing as far as a police report or anything from the actual courthouse itself stating that any sort of decision was given by the district attorney and that Officer Curry got back to Tara, except when you scour Tara's deposition, page 13 of the district attorney's discovery that was presented for the trial, you see it says, on Friday, oh, by the way, this is Tara's deposition herself, her own statements, on Friday, 8/28/15, 2015, I spoke with Officer Curry of the Lawrence Township Police Department. She advised me to contact Officer Podlisky at the Clearfield Borough Police because she felt they would have a better chance and carry more weight in filing PFA violations against my spouse. Also, she said both police departments can combine their info regarding the reported incidents to form a case against my spouse. I also spoke with Yolanda of the Crossroads Project, who has been helping me with the PFA process. You go down a little further, it says, Yolanda advised me that my spouse is stalking me. Doesn't sound like advice to me. That sounds more like a definitive statement. Yolanda then advised me that my spouse is not to have any contact with me via social media. Further, Yolanda explained that this contact could be either direct or indirect, that both are violations. I told Yolanda that Officer Curry referred me to Officer Podlisky, and she actually has referred in quotation marks, which is weird, referred me to Officer Podlisky in an attempt to form a case. I am to update Yolanda on Monday, 8/31, regarding my conversation with Officer Podlisky. Now, if you didn't catch it, let me walk you through this. On August 28, a day before Tara supposedly discovered John had liked a post on her Facebook page, she called the police and just happened to have Officer Podlisky come out to the scene. The day before that happened, Officer Curry came back with the district attorney's recommendation to contact Officer Podlisky from the Clearfield Borough Police Department. And we're supposed to believe these are random events. Now also, she specifically says that Yolanda advised her that social media contact with her spouse is a violation of the PFA. The day before, John just happened to like the post on Facebook. And she also says, I'm supposed to get back with Yolanda on 8/31. She already had a date in mind. I'm going to get back with Yolanda on 8/31. Well, if you remember, Tara reported the like button being pressed on 8/29. And it wasn't until 8/31 that she brought the evidence to Officer Podlisky. For some reason, he didn't collect it on 8/29 when he was at her house. He just wrote it up. And on 8/31, then she brought the evidence to Officer Podlisky. These are all just coincidences, I'm sure. Because I'm sure what didn't happen was that Officer Curry took the situation to the district attorney's office. Bill Shaw himself recommended, after colluding with Officer Podlisky, that Tara go to Officer Podlisky at the Clearfield Borough, tell him about everything that had happened, plan on coming out to the house for a PFA violation, I said that in quotation marks, and then contacts Yolanda from the Crossroads Project, which is supposed to help battered women, not help them commit felonies, and Yolanda just happens to advise her that your husband specifically cannot like any of your posts on social media the day before he just happens to like her post on social media, and all this stuff happened randomly, no coincidence, even though she still had to fake and forge the evidence. There is your dagger. There is your smoking gun. Officer Podlisky, Officer Curry, District Attorney Bill Shaw. I would like to know exactly who it was that had the bright idea of advising Officer Podlisky to talk with Tara the day before he just happened to arrest John on charges that he didn't even have evidence for until 2 days after the allegations were made. Boy. Some good stuff, folks. Some good stuff. Whoever was responsible for this belongs in jail and never, ever should be allowed near anything that determines the future of anyone's life, period. And when I find out who it was, when the people of the state of Pennsylvania find out who it was, we will not stop until you are out of a job. You are no longer fit to be a public servant. You are no longer fit to have the public safety in your hands entrusted to you, period. One last little point of interest. You can check this out in the document folder. A landmark case had just occurred no less than 2 weeks before Tara had the bright idea that she was going to accuse John of pressing the like button on Facebook with false evidence. August 12th is the report. August 12th, 2015. After restraining order, Pennsylvania man charged for liking Facebook photos. You can read the report yourself, but essentially this report was a landmark case for setting precedent because up until then there was no precedent as to whether liking a post or a picture or a comment from somebody on Facebook constituted indirect or direct violation of the PFA. This case set the precedent, was all over the news in Pennsylvania. But I'm sure Tara didn't get the idea from a case that had just set legal precedent for the very thing she was trying to get John hung out to dry on before his PFA expired and she no longer had any legal sway over him. Thanks for listening to this episode of Corrupt Clearfield. Remember, you can follow along with all of the documents I'm referencing at corruptclearfield.com. Just scroll down and click the link to the Dropbox file. All the documents are cataloged in order as they appear in each episode. You can also help to support this investigation as it continues, and also our family as we attempt to recover from the damage that has been done. You can donate either by going to corruptclearfield.com and clicking the link as you scroll down the page, or you can go directly to paypal.me/crazygaby. That's my broadcasting alias. Again, that's paypal.me/CRAZ as in zebra, YGAB as in Bravo, EY. Thanks for listening. Until next episode.